Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Wu Says. This is where we get real about US, China, everywhere and everything in between. It is two superpowers, but one global story. Now this week we're going to be focusing in on talent. I'm Melisa Idris, and with me is Professor Wu Wing Thye, who wears many hats. He has long experience in with working with universities, and he has affiliations with University Malaya in Malaysia, with Liaoning University in China, and with University of California, Davis in the US. And we're here this week to unpack talent and the training of talent. This all comes on the back of Trump's visa crackdown in the US. Prof. Wu, let's talk a little bit about that, because one of the things that has really struck me about that has been the US has always one of the strengths that the US has always been in its ability to attract talent, attract the best of the best around the world. With this crackdown on US visas, be it for education or for work, do you think the US is essentially shooting itself in the foot?
I think it is shooting itself in the head,
Oh dear.
which is much more serious.
Oh dear.
As you have rightly pointed out, if you look at the Americans who have received the Nobel Prize, a very large proportion of them are foreign born. So what has happened is the assumption that if we keep these foreigners out, then the local people would be able to have a chance to get these high-paying jobs at the digital companies.
Right.
This assumption can only be true if there are enough qualified Americans to take over these jobs. Largely, the reason why there are so many Indians in Silicon Valley is because there are not enough Americans with those kind of skills.
Right.
And this shows the failure of STEM education in America. If you go to the laboratories of the natural sciences in universities, you would find them to be students from abroad: Korea, Japan, Europe, China, and India.
Right.
But only a minority would be from the US. The US students would account disproportionately for the law school, the business school, but not in the natural and engineering sciences. So the Americans should improve their education in math and sciences at the primary school level onwards. So this is not a problem to be solved at the university level.
Right. I'm just wondering what this could mean. I mean, I'm sure there are drawbacks to the limiting foreign students coming into the US, for instance. The idea of the kind of melting pot on US campuses where foreign students bring in different cultures, different perspectives. And without that, I'm wondering what that would mean for US education institutions, especially the really established ones that have a long history, long tradition of diversity.
Well, a very good example would be Harvard. One of Trump's action
Yes.
was to say, I would ban foreign students from attending Harvard. That certainly would be very much to Harvard's disadvantage, because it would no longer be the leading university, because it would not be unable to attract the best potential future researchers in the field. And you could see the opposite policy being undertaken in China. China has opened up its research funding opportunities for foreigners in its universities. There is the famous 1,000 Talents program, which they bring in non-Chinese to be professors in that program.
Wow.
Like the previous chair of the Harvard chemistry department is now a member of a Chinese university.
Oh, from Harvard now to China.
To China, yes.
There you go.
And then at the same time, a lot of Chinese who were happily working in the US, given the change in atmosphere, people don't like to be in places where they don't feel welcome.
Absolutely.
They like to be accepted for what they are.
Yes.
And so you see this reverse brain drain
Okay.
of going back to China.
Prof, can I just ask you, with the situation in the US and this stand that Trump is taking, do you see it similar to his position on tariffs? So this is the kind of talent version of his economic nationalism. Is it roughly, does this track in terms of Trump's brand?
I think it is identity insecurity.
Identity insecurity.
He's very much afraid of what he sees as, he's catering to the fears of the whites that they could be losing their identity. And the identity is narrowly interpreted by the Trump's group as Christian and white. And not just Christian, but aggressive evangelical Christianity. That is the extreme version that is driving the Trump policy on the visa front. For tariff, it is to bring jobs back to the United States. In this case, it's not bringing talents back to the United States. It is an exclusivist tendency which is at odds with the US experience of where its most dynamic elements have come from. Elon Musk was born in South Africa, for example. And if you look at the head of Citibank, the head of Microsoft, were India born.
Yeah.
So you could see that the Americans have been able to make general economic progress because the inflow of foreign talents make up for the failure in the domestic education at the primary school and secondary school level.
Right.
America is very unusual in that excellent universities, but very lackluster primary and secondary schools, except at the most elite private school level. Yes, then you would see that they are just as good as anywhere else.
So if America is taking this approach, is it to the rest of the world's gain? Is it to China's gain that, if America is not interested in the best global talent, could China be an attractive proposition? As you said, they're opening up, they're welcoming more and more foreign talent to their shores.
Well, not everybody. People's tastes are different, so not everybody would prefer to go to China. Largely because Korea has opened up, Hong Kong, another part of China, but culturally and administratively quite distinct, more open, have opened up to foreign faculty as well as foreign students. Now, this closing of the border to foreign talents is not just about workers, it's also covers students. It's much harder for students to get visa to go to the United States. You certainly see that in Australia, which has drastically cut the number of students from China. That's why Australian National University is in a financial crisis and talking about eliminating whole programs.
Wow.
And in the case of the United Kingdom, because of the general atmosphere of the Cold War, you see a drop-off in foreign students in the United Kingdom as well. And that has affected UK higher education.
What about Malaysia, if you don't mind me asking? How do we view talent and the migration of talent, the cultivation of talent for the current and future workforce?
Well, the first thing to do is Malaysia, as you know, has set up talent call. That is to engineer reverse brain drain of Malaysians who are abroad. And more generally, talent call accepts foreigners, not just Malaysians living abroad.
Right.
I should know because I am a fortunate beneficiary of the talent calls program. Now, one thing is for sure. If you are able to train these people locally, then it's a question of making sure that the economy grows fast enough to be able to provide good jobs for them. And at the same time, you could think of Malaysian education being an export industry. An export industry that earns income that would allow us to expand places for domestic students. Because when we admit foreign students, we naturally add on a profit margin to the cost, which is, and we can use that profit margin to finance places for students who get 4 A's but were unable to get into Malaysian universities.
Right, right.
The problem is there's not enough space.
Okay.
Okay. So if we keep, it need not be a zero-sum game, whereby, let's say, if it's a Chinese student who got 4 A's who didn't get in, it doesn't mean that we therefore admit one Malay student less.
Right.
What we need to, the right solution is to be able to expand the number of places. The difficulty in expanding the number of places is that the government has to pay for the subsidy.
Yes, because education is subsidized.
Yes, education is subsidized. So how do we pay for it? Now, I had mentioned about attracting more foreign students, getting and using the profit margin to finance that space. But it would be stupid not to use the profit margin to maintain the quality of Malaysian universities, because what makes the foreigners come is our quality. So if we invest only in more places for domestic students, we may be hurting future quality. We cannot compete with other places. So part of it, that the expansion of places, could come from accepting more foreign students.
Okay.
But that is what I see as the long run solution. It takes time to get foreign students.
Yes.
In the short run, there are many ways to expand it, but we want the short run method of financing the expansion to be compatible with a long run strategy of making the Malaysian economy more dynamic. Largely because the ultimate answer is we are able to produce such high value added products that we are all richer and hence naturally pay more taxes without the tax rate going up. That is the sustainable way.
Right.
So when you talk about, we can always have a one-time tax increase in order to increase the number of places. It'll be very hard to have the tax increase be compatible with making the economy more dynamic right away.
Absolutely.
One way to do it is certainly we have in this country enterprises that are owned by the government that are operating inefficiently. And and what we need to do is to sell off those companies, use that income to finance this expansion in places. Now, when I said sell off these enterprises, I have to mention that there are three types of state-owned companies, the GLCs. One type are those that have a nation-building mission, bringing new technology into the country. And because it's bringing new technology and spreading in the country, we could run it at a loss. Because what happens is like the government paying for the fertilizer, and the fertilizer makes more things grow, and you collect more taxes from what that is grown. The second type of GLCs are those with a social mission. For example, the water company.
Right.
We certainly want to have cheap water for people for the first, let's say, 100 gallons that people buy, so the poor can get able to have adequate water at a low price. Instead of collecting, because water is so valuable, who can do without water? So you can really set a much higher price and people still have to pay and maximize profits. But for the country, because it has a social mission, we allowed it not to maximize profits.
Right.
Then we come to state-owned companies like banks and real estate companies. Do our GLC real estate companies as profitable as the private real estate companies? Look across the range and see the ones that are less profitable than the private sector. We should consider selling it off to the private sector so that they can bring it up to their level of efficiency,
Right.
which means that they would produce more, income is higher, and we would collect taxes on that higher income. If you look in Malaysia, a government-owned hospital has a social mission.
Yes.
But how about non-government state-owned hospitals that do not practice the social mission? It is out to maximize profits. Well, are their profits as high as the privately operated hospitals?
Are they as efficient?
As efficient, yes. So for those, we must make them more efficient so that we can make the economy grow, so the government have more taxes to spend on targeted programs to help the disadvantaged communities. And that is the short-run solution. You cannot keep on selling government assets. That's certainly
you'll run out of assets to sell.
Exactly. And you might end up selling good assets as well.
Yes.
So we don't want to. So this is something which is like an emergency firefighting.
Okay.
It's like there's a fire. Even though I'm drinking coffee, I toss the coffee on the fire instead of using water. It's a very expensive way to do that. What we also need is to empower the university to start forming partnerships in research with private companies.
Okay.
Like, for example, manufacturing firms sometimes have encountered difficulties in their operations. They need to call in a troubleshooting team. Our engineering faculty could therefore help to develop new products, new production processes for them, and at the same time, our students who participated will become future employees of these companies. So we are creating jobs at the same time while we are upgrading them technologically. So universities have to start making some money on that front.
Yeah.
One another part that must be done is that all our public universities have truly contributed to social mobility. And many people are very grateful for it. Alumni should be encouraged to help build an endowment for the university. And that endowment will be used to expand places. Let's face it, the important thing is clever, educated people will not just sit and do nothing if they're unable to find the jobs. They go out, they create new industries, they see new opportunities, and they create jobs for their fellow graduates.
Yes, it becomes a network of alumni who help other alumni. The endowment and alumni donation, or the approach, is very used in the US, right?
Yes.
We have all these Ivy League universities that depend a lot on their alumni for donations, for to sustain some of the financial endeavors, right? Yeah.
In fact,
we should do that more in Malaysia.
Like in Malaysia, the one Malaysian entrepreneur has donated a building to the Faculty of Business and Economics.
Wow.
He certainly was, and he actually even endowed a chair in a private university. He could certainly, as you could see, there are all these people who want to give back to the country.
Yeah.
And so the part of the job of the Vice Chancellor is to play golf with potential donors. You know,
I'm sure they would
he's
welcome
on the ball.
that.
The VC is on the ball.
On the ball.
Yes.
I want to come back, Prof. Wu, to the idea of empowering partnerships, empowering industries, to universities to partner with the private sector. I think that's a really important point, because not just do we think about skills matching of graduates and industry, but also the possibility of commercialization, of patent development, of kind of entrepreneurial activities through these universities. It's a fantastic point. But to relate that to your first point about public goods, or the social purpose of universities, should universities be operating like a private entity? Should universities be business-driven, profit-driven?
It should never be that way, because it was first of all founded by public money, and it has got a mission of promoting progress in society, and not just training people for jobs. So it should be a place where people freely develop better ideas for improving political governance, for strengthening social harmony.
Yeah.
And that is not a private sector mission. What we want to do is certainly develop arrangements of better political governance, promote social harmony, but we also, the third thing is strengthening the economic prosperity of the country. And that's the training mission for jobs. And we should try to make it, the university has 3 dimensions. And so because of that, the government would always have at least a regulatory role on keeping the universities focused on the societal improvements.
Yeah. What's your fear if we don't, if Malaysia as a whole doesn't get this right in terms of funding of financing of universities, funding of universities, with the general decline in government investment into education? should governments be investing more in higher education specifically if we are not seeing the outcome, the expected outcome that we want? We want graduates who are robust and resilient and able to enter the workforce, but we also need the high-paying jobs, the high-skilled jobs, ready for them to take up those jobs when they graduate, right?
Yes. Here is where foreign relations and diplomatic agreements are important.
Okay.
Malaysia could partner up with the leading technical universities in different parts of the world. Instead of giving us development aid, help us to set up a first-class engineering school.
I like that.
For example, Tsinghua could have help us to develop AI teaching in Malaysia. And you could have, and because the Cold War is on, we could, similar competitors to China would be willing to help us to develop our technical prowess. Like Japan. Japan is a technological powerhouse. What links have our universities have with them? And this, instead of Japan giving us financial aid, Japan helps us in setting up this kind of training.
I like that.
Upgrading. And the most important thing is, it shows that Malaysia is truly a friend of everybody. We are not just having training programs on Tsinghua or from some, there have been training programs with some prestigious American universities in the past.
Yes.
But they all have not endured. They have, most of them have closed.
Wow.
It's largely because that was extended as a profit maximization activity of that foreign university. But what I'm talking about is using the official aid of these foreign countries to be translated into building up Malaysian education sector, which in turn allows us to become even more attractive to students from abroad. If you look at Southeast Asia, to get a high-quality English high-quality English language education, Malaysia is a very good option. Singapore is expensive, Hong Kong is more expensive, but Malaysia, you could be able to get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very important that it's not only used to finance the expansion of places for domestic students, is also to upgrade our quality. Here is a part. In Malaysia, we have all this dispute of what is the quota for this, what's the quota for that. For student body, for training people, we want to give communities a chance, so that's why we have quota. But for the faculty, there shouldn't be quota. We want our children to be trained by the best, regardless of what clothes they wear, what color hair, and so forth, right?
Right.
So the use of quota shouldn't be automatically assumed we use it everywhere. For admission of students, that's a good case. But for faculty members, case is weaker.
For sure. Prof. Wu, that's all the time we have for you on this episode of Wu Says. Thank you so much for getting real about the US, China, and everywhere and everything in between. I'm Melisa Idris. I will see you in our next episode. Till then, bye-bye.